Chu. And they were Asian. Yes, Andre. I know exactly what you're thinking. He was Asian. His name was Chu.
How do you spell it? There's
it
a couple
was
different
CHU.
Yeah.
Chu.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is that there's so many different ways to spell Chu because there's like CHOO, there's CHU, CHIU.
You know, my actual Chinese last name is Chua.
Yeah, and then the Heng is like a combination of the other last name, right?
No, the Heng is what my mom gave my dad a nickname. His name is Henry or Hank, and she would always call him Heng.
Oh.
Heng Chua.
Cool.
When he came over to the States, he changed it.
A lot of people used to call me Chu as well because my last name is CHOU. For some reason, they think that's Chu, but I don't know. I can see exactly what they think sometimes, but Asian last names are kind of funny, man, because even though they all sound the same, they're kind of spelled differently.
Whoa.
Isn't that okay for me to say? Have you seen my ethnicity yet?
Whoa.
Actually, speaking of which, let's go ahead and introduce our players. Starting in the top left, we have Suppy from Evil Geniuses, who also is Asian. His name is Conan Liu. And he studies at UC Berkeley. He used to play. He was one of the aces for the CSL team. Was on Czech 6, but now has found a new home in the Evil Geniuses team. Currently training really hard in the summer to make sure to optimize all of his free time. Because what better time to play games than in the summer when you're not studying?
Exactly. Well, what better time to study, or excuse me, play games when you actually have to study, man? That's exactly what I did. Anyway, Kane, of course, is opening up with spawning pool first over the hatchery first of Suppy. Statistically, this should be an advantage for Suppy, seeing as this this spawning pool was a little bit delayed. Well, not a little bit delayed, but it was the 14-15 pool. So just how the rock, paper, scissors matchup works out, it is an advantage for Suppy, but a very minor one. It should be like a 1 drone or 2 drone max advantage.
Yeah, and there's easy ways to capitalize. If you have good micro, you can PRN, snipe a drone or whatnot. It depends on how things play out, but in the end, it's not necessarily rock, paper, scissors win. It's just, like you said, rock, paper, scissors advantage. Yeah. I've seen people do crazy things, man. Just the way you can like protect yourself from like a 10 pool if you go hatchery first, if you do like really good micro. So, you know, nothing's at this point concrete in terms of build order wins.
Yeah, that's actually important to note, and you're very, very right about that. For now, we do have gas being mined for both these players. It's important to note that Suppy is actually mining past 100.
Yeah, so with all 3 drones.
Yeah, he can potentially do a lot of damage with some sort of baneling early pressure. And it looks like he is opting to at least do defensive banelings, at most offensive banelings from here.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, I would say that if Suppy is the one who went for the earlier hatchery, you would probably opt to go defensively because you're not sure of your opponent, especially since Suppy doesn't really have that much information other than his Overlord scouting a little bit of a later hatchery. So Suppy has that knowledge, and normally, you know, the person that has that later hatchery has the burden of trying to catch up in some way, whether it's aggression or playing even more greedy. Depends on how you can squeeze out things. But at this point, we'll see, you know, the small decisions. How many Zerglings do I make? How much do I commit to early defense? You can see Kane playing very, very drone heavy, though. Only, I mean, he's spending everything on drones at this point, and Suppy's the one who feels a bit forced to squeeze out some Zerglings at this point.
Yeah. Both these players actually playing very similar. Of course, that's what ZVZ has kind of turned to ever since that queen change. I do want to mention really quick the lair. Who's the lair going up for? Suppy is getting a very quick. Actually, both these players are getting a lair almost at the same time. Yeah. Suppy slightly ahead of his opponent, but that won't be too detrimental into the game. Actually, it won't be at all.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see quad gassing all simultaneously from Kane. Ooh. That is, Andre, what are some of the possibilities we can see with such quick gases?
Well, of course, the very natural lair techs are Infestor and Spire Tech. Spire Tech, of course, incorporating Mutalisks. Infestor Tech, obviously incorporating Infestors. I think the standard these days are to go into Spire Tech. Spire is actually... It enables you to defend against a lot of different all-ins. When they do these delayed all-ins, they just wait until you start to make something and then push out. If it's Infestors, you really have maybe 3 or 4 fungals max. And if I just keep sending in waves after waves after waves, then it gets destroyed. So I think overall the Spire Tech is a lot safer to do. We'll see if Kane actually goes with that. And a Spire is going to get placed. Infestation Pit, though. That's going to be placed towards Suppy. So normally I would say, you know, Infestor Tech is the better choice if you're going 2-base. But the fact of the matter is, I really feel like just because you're able to take map control and you're able to put on potential pressure against your opponent, keep those Infestors a lot more, I know, reserved, I guess. You actually are able to play a better efficient game and get an advantage on your opponent.
A couple important things to note, Andre, as you very well put, that both players have full scouting information what each other are doing. Suppy sees the Spire, but at the same time, Kane ran a Zergling and installed the Infestation Pit, so he has a pretty much good awareness of it. And Suppy wants to go and deny that third hatchery, but is not able to because that one Zergling zoning off a good amount of lanes, and good micro only sending one Zergling at the Baneling to really sacrifice it. Oh, but great trade as well for Kane, and it's coming down to pretty much Zergling wars at this point. But of course, Suppy knows the imminent muta, so he has to be very careful of even just simple things like, you know, is he exposing his base too much? You know, will he be prepared? Now, he does have a few Infestors on the way, but even so, you know, he has to be very cautious because some Zerg players even have the option of making a few Mutalisks, try to force your opponent to overreact and switch hard into Roaches.
That's exactly
so you kind of fake them out, and there's that huge mind game there.
That's exactly right. And because of all this, you can see the Zerglings just moving on over to the top right-hand corner. And Kane in this whole position, I mean, Suppy in this whole position is trying to actually defend against this, and he needs to also defend against those impending mutas. Now, there is actually some sort of push where you actually walk all your queens down while the muta count is really, really tiny, but you need to make sure you get a huge muta pack. You need to make sure that they're low in hit points. They don't have the ability to actually do this counter-attacking option. So right now, it's actually Kane's move to actually lose this game. I mean, I shouldn't say lose, but get the
You're saying
give an
that
advantage away.
Oh, okay.
That's what I should say.
Yeah, and at this point, you know, the mutas are there to try to deny bases, have map control. You see that Suppy already recalled a lot of his overlords. He loses vision, and so there's just a lot of potential threat that Suppy is really afraid of at this point. He's making more Infestors. In fact, Suppy, he's taking this actually pretty calmly. He's only has one Spore per base, and you can see Kane's already switching back into Roaches, just like we said he's capable of doing. Yeah. And so there's not actually that many Mulas, and I think Suppy's gonna start catching on. About 1 minute, he says, well, you know, actually he hasn't really made any more any more Mutalisks, so he has to be prepared for a potential switch. And Kane's already pretty deep into it. In fact, Kane's already starting +2 weapons a little bit farther than Suppy.
Yeah, beautifully played by Kane. I really think he's playing this right now. You have to be careful because those Infestors, if they bank out a lot of energy, obviously they have so much power. As soon as Suppy gets a ton of Roaches out on the field, all of a sudden he has this bolstering army where the mutas aren't adding a lot and the Roaches are. But it's this 1-2 minute timing that you're taking as Kane where you know you have a third base over your opponent. And look, these mutas are actually baiting a ton of energy. A lot of fungals going down here, not a lot of mobile anti-air, but the fact of the matter is you're weakening the power of these Infestors. Yeah. So really these Infestors aren't doing that, or excuse me, aren't doing that much, and your mutas are actually giving you a lot of return, not only giving you efficiency and being able to see what's going on around the map, but making great choices and burning a lot of those Infestor energy.
Oh, no. I mean, Suppy knows what's going on. He has a changeling. He sees the army, sees a Roach Baneling, try to deal with all the Zergling count as well. A very clever incorporation of unit composition. Now, Suppy is the one making a lot of units at this point. Really needs to make Roaches. Now, the huge X factor are, again, like you said, the Infestors, but a lot of energy has been burned on trying to deal with these Mutalisks. Suppy has to be very prudent with how he approaches the situation. But at the same time, if Kane gets caught, especially with the Banelings, if you catch him with fungals, they can change everything. And you can see Suppy trying to fungal everything, lock down everything on the left and the right side. Suppy just has to keep off the chain fungals, and then Kane will be in a lot of trouble. You can see the Mutalisks also trying to flank from behind, but there are a lot of energy with Infestors left, and the Roach is doing a good job at least holding it off. And Suppy, just like that, has swung the supply counts in his favor. Excellent play and micro from Suppy.
My gosh, Suppy doing it very well. I really feel like pushing in there was so risky by Kane. But, you know, it all came down to came down to the control of Suppy, and you can see why he is on Evil Geniuses. He just turned the tides of this match dramatically. Kane, I think the more conservative route would have been to go for Roach Infestors, play defensively, knowing that you have 6 gas much longer than your opponent. Look at this. Suppy hasn't even taken his 6 gas. He's still at 4 theoretically.
Man, just being able to bounce back and forth. balancing the infestors, making sure they don't get caught, and even dealing with the Mulus flank from behind. Like, the players are chatting a little bit, but man, that got me so excited, Andre, just to see that. I fungled in my pants, man.
Aw. But that's cool. I think everybody should have. I think everybody did, Frodan.
God, that was so great. And you can see that Suppy is just, he knows he has such an advantage at this point. He's telling him to come. And you can see that, another massive fungal catching a bunch of these roaches. And it doesn't even matter that Suppy doesn't have the great concave. He's got enough to really force the engagement. And now terms have been equalized because now he's the one who has tied the upgrades against Kane. Kane does go for a burrow, but fungals will reveal even more units. And both players are now being very playful and cheeky because Kane knows that he's in an awful position. Suppy is only growing in supply and able to really harvest on his advantages. He's even got a huge worker advantage, 70-58. Kane realizing that he is almost in an unwinnable position.
Yeah, and Groove Spine is just about to finish. We have Hydra's coming up, and Kane knows he's dead in the dirt. He's going to go ahead and ask, who do you think you'll play next?
Wow.
But, man, props to Suppy, man. We were waiting all night for him to show up, and I'm so glad that he did.
Very, very nicely done.
Kane was on fire, taking out 3 monsters. Of course, Select, who had 6 total wins, and then he went on to defeat Astoji and DDE. Now, finally, Suppy. Suppy is going to be the person.
Suppy didn't even have roach speed this entire time, so no wonder he wasn't able to set up good concaves, but he's able to do it with solid positioning, and this is ridiculous, but it doesn't even matter. GG gets called out, and just like that, Suppy will dethrone our current gauntlet holder and take $75. Ben, it's actually fungals. It was the chain fungals that was really good, able to hold his opponent off. And that's like the equivalent of PBZ, where you have to force field on 2 different fronts and really balance like how much you let through. Because at that point, I mean, Kane just got, he set up a really nice concave, but I mean, Kane or Suppy really microed well, protected his infestors with what little roaches he had. It was like 12 roaches against 30. It was that kind of overwhelming advantage for Kane if he was able to break through, but Suppy didn't let it, and it was speed roaches on his creep that he still had to keep him chained down. Excellent play.
And I really feel like if Kane just sat back, got infestors, got spine crawlers, there would be nothing like that. You know your opponent has the small advantage in that infestor window, but you know you have the investment advantage. So 3-4 minutes down the line, you will have more infestors than your opponent. You're going to have more stuff. You have more upgrades, more potential. And it's small, but you got to use it like that. The roach transition was really, really, I guess, offset in that build.
All right, so the next challenger to Suppy, we're going to have another Protoss player come in. It's going to be Eifer. So don't go too far, guys. We'll be back after a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. More action coming up next.